It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and self-reliance on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You know, we're going to cover a number of articles this morning. Today is Monday, the 21st of October. And there are some startling revelations out this morning in reference to the NSA spying, brand new revelations in reference to France and Mexico. We're going to talk a little bit about that and about why that is contrary to what we've been told the entire process and the entire NSA program is about. The second topic that we're going to cover this morning is hospitals under Obamacare and how the nature of healthcare in the United States is, for all intents and purposes, effectively fundamentally changed. Essentially, what we're seeing is a penalty on hospitals that will provide services to people who do not have an Obamacare health insurance policy. And what that tells us is that you're being enlisted into the Obamacare army, whether you like it or not. This is like being drafted. And if you are not a member, or if you're not a participant in Obamacare, then you will no longer be able to go to hospitals for emergency services care and or other types of care. That's problematic in a number of areas. First and foremost, it's a restraint of free trade. But more importantly, just because you're unwilling to sign on in this first year, because quite frankly you can't sign on because the website doesn't work, doesn't mean that hospitals should be penalized for the ability to provide care for you. The real challenge that we have here is that this is, again, another methodology of forcing America to capitulate to what this administration wants. And, again, it's that scorched earth mentality. If you don't join us, we're going to burn you down. Our third segment is going to be something that is deeply concerning to many folks, and it should be. There are stores that are using your phone's Wi-Fi services to track your shopping habits. So essentially, if you have a smartphone and it incorporates the capability to utilize Wi-Fi, most phones do nowadays, by the way, the phone's Wi-Fi capabilities are being used by stores to actually track you while you're in the store and track your shopping habits. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how you can get around that. Because, one, we really don't want to be in a position where we're being snooped on by the stores that we're visiting. They claim it's, of course, for marketing capabilities, but what we don't know is what information they're gathering on us while we're there. And so, rather than trust them, which we shouldn't do, the best solution is to turn that capability off. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then our fourth and last segment is we're going to talk a little bit about the race war that is being hidden from America. You know, there was an article out in the Daily News today in reference to this group in Brooklyn of youths who attacked a white couple. And they were screaming basically a number of things. Get those crackers and get that white whore. And they basically beat the stuffing out of these people. And what we want to talk about a little bit here is the fact that, and this isn't a racial issue in the sense that we're going to talk about one race being better or less than the other. The issue here is that the press is not informing us about the true number of these attacks that have been occurring over the course of the past couple of years. They're hiding the truth from America, that there are an onerous number of these attacks, while any time that there is an attack on the other side of the fence, they take that to the extreme. Case in point would be, the case with Zimmerman and so forth, and Trayvon Martin. Those attacks happen every day, folks. And yet, the issue of the number of cases that are reported that are black on white versus white on black are deeply, deeply divided. And that is a problem in the sense that if our press isn't giving us true information and they're not openly reporting about what's actually happening, are they on the side of truth, and are they on the side of journalism, or are they really mouthpieces for the administration, and this particular administration specifically? All right, let's talk on our first topic here. France and Mexico are up in arms, and rightly so. The new revelation on the that's out from Edward Snowden is that the National Security Agency has been monitoring tens of millions of phone calls and on the even as far as the emails of the president of Mexico. Now, when we talk a little bit about the idea of the NSA, their claim, of course, is that they are doing this for purposes of identifying and quantifying terrorism, and that their main goal is to keep America safe. I mean, we hear the phrase over and over and over. In fact, the reason why we hear that over and over and over again is because Goebbels, from the Nazi era, told us that if you tell a lie and it's big enough and you repeat it over and over and over again, often enough, it becomes the truth. Now, I'm not analogizing the NSA to the Nazis, at least in this instance. But what I am saying is that this is a well-known maxim, that if you tell a lie and you tell it often enough, eventually enough people begin to repeat it that it becomes the de facto truth. Whether it's the truth or not is a whole different animal. But what we do know is this. The NSA was actually captured or caught, in this case, actually hacking into the president of Mexico's public email account. And they gained insight into the political system there, the methodology by which he was using to win the race. This was the president at the time who was running, and the current president, by the way, it's both. And what we're talking about is a comparison between the idea that Mexico is alleged to be an ally. I mean, politically speaking, on an international scale, they are an ally. They're not an enemy. And you got to question the issue of whether or not President Calderon's public email account was open to NSA review. Here's the concern. First and foremost, if this is really about American safety and security, are you trying to tell me that Mexico's president is a terrorist? I mean, is that the implication? Because you can't have it both ways. It's either all about terrorism or it's all about control. But it can't be both. If you are gathering information and you're pulling email accounts from non-terrorist entities that you know to be non-terrorists, then it's not about terrorism. End of argument. You cannot have it both ways. You're entitled to your rationale to gain the public sentiment that you want, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And in this case, the facts are clear. We were snooping and poking around in the email account of both the former and the current president of Mexico. Not to mention, in France, our ambassador has been summoned to speak with France in reference to the fact that there is large-scale spying, not only by on French political figures, but also the general citizenry. Tens of thousands of French telephone calls have been turned into a database, if you will, for the NSA. And the foreign minister says that he has immediately summoned U.S. Ambassador John Kerry to a meeting to discuss and understand essentially why. They're angry, and they have a right to be. 70.3 million pieces of French telephone data were recorded by the NSA between December and January of December of 2012 and January of 2013. That's less than 30 days, folks. One of the quotes that comes out of a radio program over there is, if an allied country spies on France or spies on other European countries, that's totally unacceptable. And I agree. And you should too. The problem here is that all of this argument that's being touted to establish the fact that the NSA is doing this only to preserve American lives is a lie. I've been telling you this all along, but daily the proof comes out. The question is, are you willing to believe what your lion eyes and your lion ears prove to you is the truth, or are you willing to believe what the administration tells you? They tell you ignore the proof that's directly in front of you, that's visible to you, that's evident to you. And this isn't only about France and Mexico. Germany caught them spying on them as well. Now, Germany is a strong ally. No one can dispute the fact that Germany is one of the strongest allies that the United States has in Europe. And yet, again, we are completely overlooking the obvious. The NSA program is not about defending the United States against terrorism. What the NSA program is about is gathering data and information on a global scale to determine who's a friend and who's a foe, domestically as well as internationally. And this is dangerous information in the hands of anyone, much less an administration that, for all intents and purposes, has annexed so much executive power that there is almost an argument to be made that we are already living in a dictatorship. When the House of Representatives has annexed the power of the purse to the presidency, as they did in this latest budget debacle, the president now has an unlimited spending budget. How much of that will be utilized to boost the power and the capabilities of the NSA? And what the NSA is doing is not working exclusively for the safety and the security of America. You cannot tell me with any intellectual honesty that France and Germany and Mexico and their heads of state, not to mention, by the way, Brazil is in this mix, all of the South American countries, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, they are all being monitored. Their accounts and systems are being hacked. You cannot tell me with any intellectual honesty that this administration has the sole and exclusive goal of defeating terrorism by hacking into the leadership of foreign governments' emails and phone systems. These are our friends, our alleged friends. These are our allies, our alleged allies. This is this is inconceivable that anyone would believe that this is a legitimate purpose. This is a report that came out in Le Monde, which is a French newspaper. It's the equivalent of their New York Times or their Wall Street Journal. It's their largest paper. And Greenwald was the newsbreaker. And, you know, I've heard arguments for and against what Snowden has done, and I've heard arguments for and against what Greenwald is doing. For the record, if you're not aware of it, the English actually went to the newspaper where Greenwald worked, The Guardian, and they told the leaders of The Guardian that they had to cut up with metal saws the hard drives in the basement where the information was stored that had been revealed to Greenwald from Snowden. Now, you know, you gotta think about that for a moment. Would we accept that here in the United States, that a government agency would walk into a public newspaper and demand to see and stand there and watch to verify it, that hard drives were destroyed that may or may not have contained data? This was in the basement of the newspaper. Something, ladies and gentlemen, is desperately wrong. And no one is in a position to deny that. No one can say, I wonder what this all means. Because it's no different than looking in the mirror and seeing the nose on your face that you know so well. Truth is truth. Regardless of where it comes from, how you obtain that information, you cannot ignore what you know to be true. Pretending that you don't understand it, pretending that you're not aware of it, is nothing other than self-delusion. The NSA needs to be defunded. The NSA's leadership, all of them, need to be removed. Now, they just announced yesterday, or a couple days ago, that the top two heads of the NSA are going to leave. They say it has nothing to do with the spying program, that it's the normal course of operations. If you buy that, I've got some oceanfront property in the heart of St. Louis to sell you. But these operations that we've heard of, Prism and Flat Liquid, and all of these different code names that they have, where we are targeting the leadership and, frankly, the president to the level of the presidencies. In Brazil, we monitored the president of her email account. We've done the same thing now in Mexico. These are not international terrorism organizations. In fact, they're not even on. No one has said that these are even remotely listed as terrorist organizations. They're not even on a watch list. And yet, we're monitoring foreign national presidents, violating their... I'm going to change the tables on you here, because I just want you to understand the implications of this. And sometimes it's instructive to look at a situation from the alternative perspective to recognize the depths of its depravity. If for some reason someone in China came out as a whistleblower and escaped that country and moved to a foreign nation, of a free foreign nation, and I use the term free loosely, and they indicated that the Chinese have been hacking into the White House and gathering the emails, the phone calls, the BlackBerry communications of the president, that they have planted the ability to monitor the telephone communications and the goings-on inside the White House. as a national program, how would Americans feel? How would you feel if we found out that China had done that to us, or Putin over in Russia? I mean, you can take either example. It makes no difference. The simple truth is, and I'm sure they try. I mean, let's not gild the lily here. I'm sure they're trying. The real question is, how would you feel if you knew that to be the case? You would be angry. You would be resentful, and rightly so. In this case, we're trying to sugarcoat this. We're trying to pour some shellac on this to make this seem like something other than the dog do that it is. It's all about terrorism. I beg to differ. It is not about terrorism. This is about an effort to gather information and build only one thing: enemy lists. And anyone who looks at it in any other sense of the word is deluding themselves. We are building enemy lists, foreign and domestic. The American people are being monitored and tracked, and the amount of data that is being gathered is reprehensible. It is inexcusable, and it will be the death of this republic if it is not stopped. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm the host here. You're certainly welcome to join us on our multiple media formats. You can find us on the web by going to americasvoicenow.org. We post up every show that we do there afterwards, and we also put up news articles and all kinds of information there. We also have a Facebook page, which, interestingly enough, I'm being blocked from accessing today. I'm not quite sure what that's about. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's a glitch. You can find that page by going to facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And then you can also find our YouTube channel where we post up all of our shows at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. Basically, remember America's Voice Now, and you can find us everywhere. We'll be back in just a moment. Stick with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about hospitals under Obamacare and how the way healthcare is delivered in the United States is under fundamental change.